Pokemon Quest news. As of August 9th, Pokemon Quest revenue on mobile reaches $8 million after 1 month. That's pretty good for this game. It's been just over a week since the cross-platform Pokemon Quest celebrated its 1-month launch anniversary, and Sensor Tower's store intelligence data shows that mobile players worldwide have spent more than $8 million in the game so far. This following a launch that saw the title gross more than $3 million in its first week of availability on the App Store and Google Play. Now, these are actually some pretty good numbers considering the DLC of the games itself, because the DLC, it's a one-time only purchase, and the game is actually pretty easy without purchasing DLC. When the games first came out, it seemed like a brutal grind where you pretty much had to spend money on the game if you wanted a good experience, but once you understand that like bulk up is the meta, team compositions and stuff like that, you can actually beat the game in a reasonable amount of time without DLC, and again, everything else is one purchase. So you can kind of spend all your money up front or just buy the Ultra Pack for $30, and then you have a $30 Pokemon game that plays pretty well. You know, you have very little restriction, so you just make a one-time purchase and you're good to go. Also, there's no recurring purchases. That if you could spend, you know, $5 to get 1,000 PM tickets or something, I feel like there would have been a lot of stacking microtransactions that would have generated a lot more revenue for the game. So there's just one-time purchases, and sometimes people kind of feel inclined for it, or maybe they just spend a few dollars instead of the Ultra Pack, but overall, does pretty well with what we have. Now, what I want to do is cover everything that's going on with Pokemon Quest and see what that means for Johto in the future, because if this game is generating decent amounts of revenue right now, like 8 million, the game couldn't have been that much to develop. Like, this game is probably going to be generating just pure profit for a while, and even putting in the resources to add Johto in, you know, just make a few more maps, make a few more models. It seems like the game is making more than enough money to pay that off. Player spending in Pokemon Quest has slowed since its first week on the App Store, with daily gross revenue currently totaling about $30,000 across both platforms. I mean, if you can make something that's generating $30,000 a day, that's pretty awesome. By comparison, on its single best day post-launch, the game grossed more than $580,000. Now that's a lot. You know, we saw $3 million in revenue in the first week. We saw like 3.5 million downloads as well. So seeing that conversion into a $580,000 day, that's pretty good as well. So Pokemon mobile version launched last week, already $3 million in revenue and installed 3.5 million times. Now, the funny thing is, with data like this and the numbers we've been seeing about Pokemon Quest, it's almost generating like $1 per download on average, which shows that, you know, 1 in 30 people are kind of buying the full DLC, or maybe like 1 in 40-ish people are kind of like buying everything. There's a lot of like weird numbers going in, or just a lot of people that download it. They might pick up a $5 or the $12 pack or something, not go all in, but at least buy that little microtransaction. You know, if you download like any free game on the App Store and just put $5 towards it, and then you get a couple of hours of fun out of it, I think it's worth it. So there's a little bit of microtransaction generation that's coming from this, and it seems like the numbers have been holding up. So 31% of the users are in Japan, 25% US, 12% South Korea. That was on the first week, and the follow-up is going to be 24% in United States, 34% in Japan, and then 12% in South Korea. So it seems like people are just kind of still chugging along and playing the game at about the same ratios. And one thing that's interesting is I feel that more people would actually download the game for the first time if Johto was introduced. And also, how would they like generate more money? I think that might be the only thing they need to figure out, because if I already have all the packs and stuff and then Johto gets introduced, I don't need to spend any more money. So it should be about trying to get as many new players as possible. And one thing I also wanted to look at was the amount of downloads on Nintendo Switch. So we're getting a pretty hefty amount. So we have like 8 million in revenue with about 8 million downloads on iOS and stuff. And then Pokemon Quest catches 2.5 million downloads on Nintendo Switch, and that was back in June 20th. So in the time it took for like, so Pokemon Quest probably has like 3 million downloads on the Switch, which is still pretty good considering how many, like, there's not that many Nintendo Switches out there. I think it's, what was the last total for Nintendo Switch? Like 10 million? Oh, it's actually at 20 million, which isn't surprising. That's actually amazing. So yeah, 20 million Nintendo Switch units sold. But that means 1 in 7 people downloaded a free Pokemon game on Nintendo Switch, which is pretty cool. I think the reason why I thought 10 million is I heard that 20 million number. I couldn't remember if those were the actual amounts of units sold or their projection for like the next year of units sold and stuff. So Nintendo Switch is going pretty well. and people just kind of picked up the Pokemon game just because. Now, I'm wondering if what hurt the sales was, or not even sales, just the amount of downloads, was that it was on Nintendo Switch first, and not everyone has access to that, and then they kind of forgot about it with the iOS, or maybe just the way that it was actually introduced and launched. Because this was a really strange game out of nowhere, with no build-up, no nothing like that. Like, this is a trailer. We were all waiting for a new Pokemon game. We were all anticipating something new. Like, where's Generation 8? Where's this Yellow remake that's being leaked and stuff? Nah. This was the first game that was announced, Pokemon Quest. It's like, oh, is this our spin-off title for the year? What's going on? And it says Nintendo Switch and soon on mobile. Cube-shaped Pokemon move on their own. And it's just like, it just came off as a silly mobile game, but it wasn't what people were waiting for. And then it was immediately overshadowed by Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which kind of got its own negative press because there were no wild Pokemon battles. So it wasn't like the strongest lineup of stuff that the Pokemon Company can do. And then after the presentation, while we're still trying to digest what's going on with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, by the way, you can go and download this silly looking game. Huh? What? Okay, you got it, coach. So I think that there could have been a bit more build-up, and that might have worked out, because when it came to Pokemon Go, we were like waiting over a year for that game to come out. It's like, oh dude, there's like that mobile game. It was in development. We got the trailer. It's like, yo, there was rumors about it for a while. So that game was building up a lot of hype, and it was what everyone wanted. And it seems like Game Freak and the Pokemon Company, they're making more mobile games to try to increase that profitability. I mean, Pokemon Shuffle went for a good while and was generating a lot of money. You know, it started on 3DS, did well enough to where they switched over to mobile, and then it was getting regular updates. It even got updated to Generation 7 because the revenue generation was there. So that's why I'm like, if Pokemon Shuffle can get updates for a while, what's the other one? Pokemon Duel Links. No, that's you. Pokemon, what is it? Oh my gosh, I can't remember what the Pokemon one's called. Right, it's just Pokemon Duel. I never played it, I never got into it, but it gets like regular balance patches and stuff, so I guess it's also doing pretty well on that revenue generation. And yeah, it seems like, you know, the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, they're doing good amounts of development for the iOS, and it's like, okay, if this game is generating 8 million and it's doing this well, that means we should be seeing a Johto update or something. And I've even talked to people and they said, yeah, I would play Pokemon Quest if there was more going for it. That if it actually launched with maybe a little bit more features and stuff, or wasn't such a surprise. If people saw this, they're like, I can skip it. But there was build-up, if there was an anticipation, if there was hype behind it, it might have gotten a few more people on board, and we just want an announcement. Like, all they have to do is say, Johto is in the works, and it might get people to go back and play Pokemon Quest just a little bit. Now, one thing that ended up happening was the game is broken, because you just bulk up and then you pick like ground rock type Pokemon and you're able to crush it. So this came off initially as like a ridiculous, ruthless, relentless, incredible grind kind of game, but then it really sped up and people were able to beat it probably a lot faster than any of the developers intended. So I'm wondering how that's going to work for the balance of Johto, and if Johto is going to bring in a lot of people. Like, they need to relaunch this game hard. They need to try to get everyone to play it for the first time, and then they need to get people excited for Johto, because I was honestly expecting, with how Pokemon Go did, and just the amount of people that are kind of interested in Pokemon, this game should have had like 25 million downloads. Like, that was my average case scenario. Like, worst case 20 million, 25 million average-ish, or best case like 50 million, something ridiculous, because this is a fun, pseudo-addicting Pokemon game that I see just great for kids. But I don't think it was marketed, like the parents didn't find out about as much as Pokemon Go. People just didn't really get into this, even though I believe it's a pretty solid game. So I think that just might be the way that that was like suddenly launched and stuff with no build-up. Or maybe there just wasn't enough content to justify it, and Johto could show like, hey, this game's worth putting your time in. If we get Johto, we might even get Hoenn. So if you get good at the game and you start to understand how it works, you're going to have something to play in the side. That, you know, maybe Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it kind of fades out mid next year sometime. You turn around, Pokemon Quest is still doing updates and still has something going for it. But then that means Game Freak is kind of committed to doing a more frequent update, a lot more with Pokemon Quest. So it's like, how much are they going to put in? If they just put in Johto in like late August, early September, and then just let the game die, I'd be fine with that. Because that means Pokemon Company, they made a good amount of money for it, as long as it's getting positive returns. It was something to hold me over for Pokemon Let's Go. And then after that, we got Let's Go into Generation 8, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's playing as well. I just feel like this game should have done better, could have done better, and it's maybe also just a reflection of how Pokemon you know, people aren't really engaging with Pokemon as much. They can't capture that Pokemon Go magic because Niantic killed the game, and then the Pokemon Company didn't really do anything to engage with their audience. Like, there wasn't any build-up. There wasn't any engagement here with Pokemon Quest outside of Japan. Japan, they're still tweeting about Pokemon Quest. Like, we have Poketimes, we have the Japanese Pokemon Twitter. They're on fire with this stuff. Like, the Japanese social media for Pokemon has always been more engaging and just kind of like tweeting out all kinds of random things just to keep Pokemon in people's minds and kind of create that culture. That's why we see, you know, more revenue, more downloads and stuff for Japan when it comes to things like Pokemon Quest. But even then, I feel like Pokemon Quest should have just done better, and I don't know why it didn't. Is it just because the people were expecting more, that they want to try to like get any amazing thing to revoke what they feel is the sin of Pokemon Sun and Moon? Even though 7th generation is my second best favorite generation and just how it's represented, people didn't like the hand-holding story of Pokemon Sun and Moon, and because of that, they were like, where's our real game? And then they see Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and they get upset about that. Pokemon Quest just kind of gets mixed in, and the whole thing was received lukewarm, even though Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee looks to be an amazing game, and Pokemon Quest is fun and definitely worth a download, but I'll release like a Pokemon Quest video, then people say, what's this game? So it kind of didn't get out to who it needed to. I don't know if that was just marketing, if that's timing, or if the Pokemon community is just in a much worse state. Because Pokemon Duel has passed 34 million downloads? What? If Pokemon Duel can pull in 34 million downloads, is it really that good of a game? Like, I'm not saying like, oh, is it a good game? Like, is it bad or something? Because I never got interested in it. I never downloaded it or played it, but it still found 34 million. Do any of you guys download it? Is it a game that you are expecting to find 34 million players? So I feel like Pokemon Quest should have gotten like 30 million on average, 20 million, like worst case scenario, following Pokemon Go, following all that stuff. So that's kind of like when I found out about this, and that was also back in May 2018, time to hold a poorly organized festival. I love it. Because this was before Pokemon Go Fest 2 happened, and it was still just like, yep, let's do Pokemon mobile game, Pokemon Go Fest, just absolute travesty. But that's not bad at all. Free-to-play title launched Japan 2016, make its way to worldwide Android, iOS devices January the following year. So, I mean, it does have a lot more time. So I'm wondering, does that mean Pokemon Quest is just going to get, like, consistent downloads? You know, a million people are just going to download it for years? Just like, oh yeah, just scrolling through the App Store, Pokemon Quest. Maybe something gets brought up about it now and then. It's like, yeah, Pokemon Quest. We're going to do that. I think it needs updates, because Pokemon Duel gets a lot of balance patches. It gets a lot of updates. Cerebi is tweeting out about it frequently. Every once in a while, it just kind of buzzes back in your brain. Pokemon Quest, it happened and then it dropped off. I feel if we got any news, like, get ready for Generation 2 next month in Pokemon Quest, people will turn around, download that game today, start getting another play for it, maybe pick it up again, or maybe just kind of find value. It's like, oh, if Johto's happening next month, I'll pay that $15, rush through Kanto, and then do the Johto update when it happens. So I think that that's really one thing that's needed when it comes to an update for Pokemon Quest. And then the game could probably push that 20, 30 million. But I feel like Pokemon Quest is a game that should have more downloads than Pokemon Duel at some point. Even Pokemon Shuffle. I can't find any recent numbers. I like Google search, you know, Pokemon Shuffle million downloads. And this is the most recent one. Tuesday, August 9th, August 9th, 2016, 6 million downloads on 3DS. Not bad. Pokemon Shuffle saw an initial launch on eShop February 2015. Title has managed to break 6 million downloads on the 3DS eShop, and then this is right in line with performance on mobile devices. While it's not headline grabbing as Pokemon Go, still a respectable number for the app. So I mean, just 6 million 3DS, that's pretty solid. Oh yeah, that other Pokemon game. I'm trying to find out what in-app purchases were a bit much, found it to be satisfying overall. That's what I mean, like, Pokemon Shuffle was heavy on those app purchases, so I'm wondering if even with less downloads, or like how much money it's made compared to Pokemon Quest over time, and how many people just picked it up on, you know, iOS. So I couldn't even find those numbers. I don't even know if anyone was tracking it, because it's like, oh, Pokemon Shuffle went to mobile? Okay, I guess that happened. You do you, Game Freak. But yeah, I don't know if that means that Pokemon Quest is just kind of like dead. It had its nice little summer run, and that the Pokemon Company is just going to kind of give up on it, or if it might just chug in the background and do pretty well for a while. Either way, I kind of want to see more for this game. I enjoyed it. It was really fun to play, and I sunk over 200 hours into it, just kind of AFKing and going for videos and doing the max grind. If I could do that all again for Johto before Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee comes out, I'd be happy. I think it could make a lot of other people happy as well. So maybe that's it, you know, we just need more engagement, we need to bring the community back together, need to get people loving Pokemon again. But after Niantic killed Pokemon Go, and after people are just kind of upset about Let's Go, that's going to be hard to do. I don't think the Pokemon Company is making a big enough push for it, because 8 million is a big number. Like, that's probably surprising a lot of people that didn't have any hope for Pokemon Quest, but I know that this game could be more, I know that Pokemon could be more. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day, thank you very much for watching.